So, hello everyone. Welcome to NestGen 23, the world's first and largest drone autonomy summit. I hope that you're having a great time so far at NestGen 23, and looking forward to the session that we have here. So, before we begin, it would be great if you can just let me know where are you joining from, what do you do, what excited you the most about this session, just so we can get an idea, on our audience. So in this session, we will explore the crucial role that long-term evolution or LTE technology plays in enabling beyond visual line of sight drone operations. The need for BVLOS drone operations is increasing as we speak, with industries such as agriculture, infrastructure, inspection, emergency services relying heavily on drones to perform critical tasks. However, the success of the BVLOS operations is largely dependent on reliable and efficient communication systems. And this is where LTE technology comes into play, providing a fast, secure, and ubiquitous network that is ideal for BVLOS drone operations. So with that, I'll make a quick introduction to the speaker. So Paladin's founder, Devi Srivastava, spent most of his childhood in a town 25 minutes north of Columbus, Ohio. In 2016, just as he was ready to attend Berkeley for engineering, a close friend's house caught fire and burned down. This event had a massive impact on Devi and the community as a whole. After talking to the local fire chief, he learned two important facts. A fire doubles in size every 30 seconds, and first responders never have enough time when they arrive on the scene. This is because when someone calls 911, they're usually panicked or not trained to assess a situation, and he knew there had to be a better way. After another fire burned down a campus church during his first year at Berkeley, Devi set out to found Paladin with a single mission: send autonomous drones to 911 calls to give first responders a live overhead view of an emergency before they arrive, helping to increase situational awareness, decrease response time, and save lives. Devi, I must say that's truly an inspiring story, and it sets a lot of context for our audience as well. I would like to welcome you to NestGen and to this session particularly, and looking forward to all the insights that you have to share with us. So before we begin, Devi, I just have a couple of housekeeping rules that I'd like to share with the audience. So there's a specific Q&A tab for the questions. You may use that, and once we're done with this session, we'll make sure that we take up those questions one by one. This session is also getting recorded and will be published soon on all our social media channels. And once the session ends, we do have a booth in the expo section. So if you want to connect with Divi and ask a couple of more questions or have some specific requirements, you can do that as well. If you like the session, please drop a LinkedIn post. You can tag Flightbase and use the hashtag NestGen23 and the hashtag OpenDIAB movement. Top 3 posts will receive special NestGen hampers. And last but not the least, we'd like to thank our title sponsor, DJI Enterprise, and our platinum sponsor, Volatus Aerospace. With that, Divi, I hand it over to you.
Great. Neil, thank you so much for the gracious introduction. Audience members, great meeting you. Nice seeing some familiar faces and some new ones as well. During this presentation, I'd like to just go over more about how Paladin was started, some of the current work we are doing, and hopefully ask any questions throughout the session. So Neil, I will take it away. I believe I can share my screen. And audience members, please let me know if at any point if something is not exactly working. So with that, I will try sharing my screen. Here we go. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, Devi, we can see your screen.
Great. Hey, everyone. As Neil said, my name is Divi, and I'm the CEO and founder of Paladin. just a little bit of background on me and how I came to be where I am today. I was born in India, and I moved to the United States when I was very young. I spent most of my childhood in the state of Ohio. Great place to grow up if anybody ever wants to visit. It's nice, quiet, and very, very peaceful. In 2016, I was heading off to college to study engineering at Berkeley. Was very, very excited to be going out of my bubble and hopefully learn from the best. And that summer, one of my friend's houses burnt down. I was in a very tight-knit community, and in those communities, when something that tragic happens, it affects everyone very deeply. And through that, I started to just learn a little bit more about emergency response. I don't have, or I don't have any family in first response, don't have any sort of background there. And I just wanted to know what happens during emergencies. And I started talking to my local fire chief. His name was Chief Noble. And he told me two things that have stuck with me since then. And if there are other first responders in the audience, I'd love to know if this is resonating with you. And if not, would love to know what your stories have been. Well, the two things he told me was that, number one, a fire can double in size every 30 seconds. This came as a pretty big shock to me. It's difficult to put that into perspective, but what that can mean is that a single fire that's starting from, maybe a corner in some sort of house, depending on the conditions, can be covering the entire room in just a couple of minutes. And he stressed to me the urgency of time, how each second in that situation counts. And he also told me that first responders just in general don't have situational awareness when they arrive on scene. And he also explained this to me. Again, I did not come from that background. I had a lot to learn. And he told me that usually, at least within the United States, we have our 911 system. And 911 system allows anyone to call for an emergency. Usually when people are calling, those people are not trained first responders. They're not trained to know how to size up an emergency, how to effectively communicate information. It's no one's fault. It's just the way it is. And unfortunately, what this results in for the first responders when they arrive on scene, or even as they are arriving, is not knowing what they might be getting into. And given that I have been growing up with technology, I can access information immediately if I need to. This didn't really sit well with me. I figured there had to be something that can be done to help. When I went off to college, unfortunately saw more fires. One of our college campus churches burnt down, and there was a tragic Oakland warehouse fire during the same around the same year that unfortunately claimed more lives. And during that entire time, I was just talking to more first responders. The same problem was communicated to me, which was a lack of situational awareness. And one evening, I was talking with the fire captain, and he was explaining to me that at least on his calls, he had a fire station that was on top of a hill. And on top of that hill, a lot of the responses that he would go to would be maybe overturned vehicles. They would be maybe down the hill somewhere or any sort of dangerous conditions. And he was just saying that, maybe if there was a way to tell before they arrived on scene exactly where the car was, maybe that could help. And I kind of just started working on that idea. And I thought, well, what if we could do that for every single emergency? What if every single time there is an emergency, somebody calls 911? What if we could get a drone overhead? The drone doesn't need to worry about destination. It does not need to worry about, traffic or anything like that. It should be able to just travel in a straight line. If it can get there, the drone probably has a camera, and maybe we can send that information to the first responders who are on scene. My hypothesis was maybe this could help save lives. Maybe this could help save time. At the very least, hopefully provide more information so that people are safer. And in 2018, I dropped out to turn this into a full-time company. And today, Paladin deploys autonomous drones to emergencies. Our drones and our entire suite of software and hardware that we create allows first responders to fly to an emergency with the click of one button and just directly go from there. I think there might be some questions on chat. Neil, let me know if something is coming up. But
Yes.
that is how we got started. And since then, what that means today is, today we've developed a lot of different solutions. When I first started out in 2018 and started the company, the biggest shortcoming I saw to make this vision a reality, there were many, but the first one I realized was the current way drones communicate. And
Divi, I'm sorry to cut you in between. Is it
Sure.
possible for you to, start the slideshow just so that everyone can see it better?
can you, sure, I'm not sure if it will translate over.
Welcome to VoiceOver. VoiceOver speaks description.
The slideshow. So it's,
Yes.
I can see the
I
entire
know.
view now. Just
Can
so
you
the
see it now?
audience. Yes, perfect.
Great. Audience, is that much better?
Yes.
Great. So when I first started out in 2018, drones were being flown with a remote controller. And in order to send a drone to anywhere, any sort of far away, assuming there were regulations to allow that, the drone would need to maintain some sort of connectivity. Now, I, again, grew up in a pretty small town in Ohio, where I would want to make a solution that would work in every single city. And in order for that to happen, one of the first things I realized was that there had to be some way to communicate with the drone, even if the remote controller's RF-based frequency signal did not work. And what I mean by that is, if any of our audience members have tried flying a drone a little bit far, and maybe you're not at a high place, you're just in a parking lot, maybe doing some sort of inspection. Chances are, if you go behind a building, or if you go severely behind a building or anywhere else, you will likely lose connection, especially if you are trying to send a drone very, very far away. Radio signals, unless you have a very, very powerful antenna, just do not work well in those situations. And I wanted to create a system that would work in every single city. And most cities today have a very robust cellular infrastructure. And I started working on a solution. And the solution was, well, let's just start controlling drones over LTE. So we started with a couple of products. The first one we officially released was Nighthawk. This was a drone that we created using entirely LTE. And this purpose of the drone was to be able to respond to emergencies immediately with the click of one button. Released this in 2021 and started deploying it to several cities, and proved that it works, proved that LTE is able to send the drone several miles away. And through Nighthawk and through all the work I've been doing, we have also been able to get waivers to be able to send these drones as far away as needed. And that really helped us get started. And in my head, really confirmed that LTE is the way to at least deploy drones wherever is needed, deploy drones especially beyond visual line of sight. And very recently, just a couple of months ago, we released our next product, which is the Paladin EXT, because a lot of our departments, first responders, most first responder communities do not have big budgets. It's difficult to buy drones, and getting any sort of buy-in from departments is difficult. It's thankfully getting better every single day, but we wanted to make a system that would work for everyone. So the Paladin EXT was created as a box that would have all of the LTE, the autonomy needed for this entire system to work. And the Paladin EXT is the current product that we are shipping out to several states across the country. And this has our LTE system, it has our autonomy system, and it can bolt onto DJI drones in order to send them as far as needed, alongside with our FAA waivers, to send to emergencies. And LTE is deployed today, and it's working very well. I'll quickly try to share a video of the EXT. Neil, I'm not sure if we can still see my screen.
We can see your screen. Yes, it's visible.
Great. So let me try to share my video over here. Just play a quick video. Let me know if we can or cannot hear what's going on.
It's visible.
Introducing Paladin EXT,
breaking through the barriers of radio-based UAVs and their limited range. With an easy installation of the EXT module, fly your DJI drone beyond visual line of sight. EXT enables you to operate first responder programs without the need for a remote pilot in command on a rooftop. Fly anywhere in the country with an LTE connection via a centrally located command center. Receive a call for service and have a live overhead view within minutes. Gather valuable situational awareness on the ground and broadcast a live feed to your team across multiple devices before first responders arrive on the scene.
It is a game changer. DFR is the future. As drone first responders, it lets you respond to calls where seconds count.
We're also excited to extend the autonomous controls and unlimited range of the EXT to other industries and unlock new possibilities in 3D mapping, inspections, and agriculture.
Paladin EXT. Limitless range, unlimited possibilities.
That was a great video, Devi. It literally gave me goosebumps.
Me too. I didn't get goosebumps when I saw myself appear on screen. I was like, but that's what we've created, and that's what we are working with. I'll continue back to the presentation. And
Yes.
Neil, happy to answer questions now, or we can keep them at the end. Let me know.
Let's
Did I
keep them
see
for the end.
Sure.
We have some dedicated time to address all the questions. So you can continue with your presentation, and then we can take up the questions later.
Sure. So just more on the EXT. It's made specifically for DJI products, and reason for that being is most of our first responder community and most of the enterprise community as a whole today are using the DJI drones. It allows you to use all the capabilities of your existing platforms with all of the payloads, the gimbals, everything you are currently used to, and our EXT port just attaches on top and directly connects with all of our infrastructure. So the infrastructure that I want to quickly talk about is Watchtower. So Watchtower is our online platform in order to command, control, keep track of all of your equipment, data, everything, all in one website. This works on any single device that has an internet connection. We've tested it with Chromecast. We've tested it with all sorts of different controllers. But essentially, with this platform connected to EXT, once you turn on your drone and the EXT is already installed, a live video feed as well as all of the autonomy controls will log onto Watchtower. As the drone is flying, you will be able to, especially for first responders, be able to control every single aspect of the drone, the camera, the angle, the speed. You can plug in a gamepad controller if you want to fly, or you can use your keyboard and mouse if you are more used to a traditional gaming setup to fly the system. It also handles all of data management and logging. This has especially become important for our first responder users as they are tracking exactly where these drones are going to, what sort of emergencies they are responding to, and how we are able to help increase efficiency and decrease response time. And it allows you to fly, stream, manage data. And again, in order to control this drone, you can be anywhere in the world, technology-wise, and be able to control a drone. All you have to do is log in and fly it immediately and very, very easily. The biggest advice I got from our firefighting clients and friends was that everything should be very, very simple. If it's overcomplicated or difficult to use, then it will become very, very difficult for others to use in high-stress information areas, and which is why we use a very simple start, stop, and RTH system. All you have to do is click on a map or type in an address, click start, and the drone will autonomously go to that location. You can click stop at any point, which will cause the drone to hover, and once the mission is over, click RTH and return home. If you need more control, you can always use keyboard controls and others to keep more precise control of the drone, as well as automatically generate reports, manage your entire fleet, and handle your data securely. As part of this, especially when working with first responders, I learned that it's very difficult to get any sort of drone program started. And again, my goal is to have every single department who wants to do DFR using drones. So we, as part of our process. Also help drones, also help entire departments, cities set up their FAA guidelines and work through them through the entire process. We'll get on a call, we'll handle all the paperwork, we'll make sure to be talking, and we'll make sure to be talking with your pilots to train them on what needs to happen, walk you through what the FAA is expecting, be there for all the different calls that are needed with the FAA, and continue making this process better. And thankfully, we are supported with our first responder community to always be giving us feedback to make the system better and better every single day. So that was just a very quick presentation. Neil, happy to answer questions, and wanted to keep the rest of this just very open-ended to see what else I can share.
Definitely, Devi. Thanks for sharing more details on your product. It's really impressive, and thanks for coming here and sharing your expertise as well, and giving us all the knowledge and telling us where the industry is headed when it comes to drones as first responders. We also have had scheduled a couple of polls, so we can just take some time and see what kind of responses we've got on those polls. So I think there was one question: where do you go online to learn more about? All right, I'll skip this one for now. How difficult has it been for your organization to obtain BVLOS waivers? So do you want to share something on that?
From my end, or?
Yes, your end.
Yeah, sure. So BVLOS waivers, back when everything was being started, were very difficult. In fact, at least in the US, there was a IPP program that awarded or that worked with specific cities to help start the entire process. And that, I think, got the entire ball rolling. And there are some very clear leaders like Chula Vista Police Department who have been leading the way on those operations. And thankfully, we're seeing today that more and more departments are getting BVLOS waivers. Just from us, we're in double digits now in terms of BVLOS waivers being approved, with our cities currently using them, and I expect that number to continue increasing. Now, it is still not a fully repeatable process. We have been very fortunate, at least within the United States, there are different airspace classes, anywhere from G all the way to the more and more complicated ones. We've been fortunate where the departments we are working with, and by talking with the FAA, we're able to fly BVLOS in restricted airspaces such as Class Bravo airspace. We have several waivers in these airspaces, and I think it's largely due to the way we are setting up our command and control center, as well as working with our first responders to make sure that all of the requirements are being met. I'm looking forward to hopefully in the near future where we'll be able to have an even more streamlined process. So it has only gotten better and easier. That being said, many departments are still running into just questions or issues, and this just could be because we are still so early into this that everyone is still figuring it out. But there's definitely a path forward, and we're very excited to have been kind of on that edge.
All right, that's great to know, Devi. So I think we have an audience from all across the globe. So there's one question: if your products are available in the UK and are CE compliant?
The products are available in the UK and CE compliant.
Yes.
The products, if you are out of the United States, please send us an email. I'd love to chat with you. We are looking at international customers as well. This EXT module was created for first responders. And in the process, we just started getting emails from kind of all over saying, hey, we actually would like to use LTE to try to augment our operations as well. So please reach out to me directly at team@paladindrones.io, and would love to see what we can get done in the UK. And especially if it's first response, very interested to know what your daily operations are like.
All right. We also have a couple of questions on the grade of LTE. So what grade of LTE is needed to fly the drone reliably? For example, it's class 1, class 4, and what are the data rates? If you can shed some more light on that.
Yeah, our system, LTE is different internationally. There are many different ways to classify it. What I like to use just as a common ground is a bandwidth. And in order to have minimal latency, and minimal latency, I'm saying less than half a second, if not much faster. Usually, we like to see upload speeds of at least 600 kbps. Through that, we're able to get about a 720p video fairly consistently up. And if that upload speed increases to maybe 1 megabyte or 2 megabytes, then we can consistently stream 1080 and then on. 4K streaming does require significantly more in order to have consistent and low latency video speed. But as long as we're able to have like at a bare minimum 600, you'll be able to get video. In order to have just complete command and control, meaning maybe the video is not there, but you are able to control the drone and tell it where it needs to maneuver, our system is able to work with just about 10 to 20 kbps upload speeds. And download speeds are dependent on the user. So that's just the better download speed you have on your end computer, the better it's going to be. But yes, the limiting factor is usually upload speed on LTE. Generally, I recommend if we're able to get 1 Mbps up, that's more than enough to have a very consistent stream.
All right. So I think we have one more question. So I think there was a flight, small hardware piece of hardware that goes on top of the drone, right? So are there any significant, is there any significant loss in flight time that you have seen?
Great question. Yeah, the current EXT module, and if you saw from the video, the first one we released was very, very big. We've since, and that was several months ago. We keep making smaller modules. The latest one is significantly smaller, and it's decreasing flight time by about 15%. So there is a little bit of a hit on flight time. In our first responder scenarios, this hasn't seemed to make much or any of a difference, because most of our on-scene time is 20 to 25 minutes anyways, which is right within the range of safe operations.
All right, that's good to know. And I think there's one more question. So do you have a skirt around for the anti-DJI fear that is being propagated by the government? So I think, the most of the hardware that you're using is the DJI. So do you want to share something on this, like your perspective?
Could you repeat that one more time, Neil?
So again, in the US, there's an anti-DJI propaganda, right? So if you want to share some more light on that, so what's your take on that?
Our users tell us essentially which drones that they would like to be using. We work with several different drone platforms. We have Nighthawk that we have created, which is our drone, and users who want to use that come to us and say that's what we want to use. And our first responders who are using DJI come to us and say, hey, we would like a product that is working with them. And our goal as a company is to make sure we are following the needs of our customers. So if there are other drone platforms that customers want to use and we are able to find a way to work with them, then that's exactly what we'll do.
All right. It's good to know that your product is modular and customizable. So I think that's the right way to move forward. I think there's one more question. So when it comes to first responder situations, do you have any third-party integrations that, let's say, send you details about an incident? So let's say if there's a fire at a specific location, is it possible for you to get that information and launch the drone directly to that specific location?
Our system is modular enough to do that, yes. Right. We customize it city by city. Not every single city wants to have a fully automated response, meaning the minute something happens, the drone immediately takes off. We always recommend having a pilot not only in the loop, but the pilot is responsible for clicking the actual takeoff of the system. Operationally, this can mean that we can have, for example, a pop-up that says, hey, there is an emergency that is going on. However, it is on the decision of the pilot in charge to deploy that or not deploy that. As regulations change, as needs change, we're always looking to see what our departments want, and we go from there.
All right. Okay. There's one. I think a lot of questions around LTE, its range, and questions related to its bandwidth. So there's one person from the audience who says LTE has the advantage in the range department, but lacks in the bandwidth and latency part of it. So do you have any workaround around those issues?
We haven't seen much issues with latency. Again, we are live with several users all across the United States, and the biggest latency we have ever seen is half a second. And it is going to be more latency than if you're used to traditional RF controls. However, we're clearing emergencies every single day with the system. So the areas where this will not work as well, and we are, when we go to a department, we always see what the LTE coverage is like. If it's a very super rural area where there is not a lot of LTE coverage, I would not recommend an LTE solution. And so therefore, it just depends city to city. However, our goal is to be working with the majority of departments across the country and across the world where LTE, signal and infrastructure is very, very good all across. So we're not seeing any issues so far, or at least very, very minimal issues. If there is, for any reason, a blackout or we come into a bad spot because LTE coverage is not always consistent, then our system knows to automatically return home. It is constantly doing several levels of safety checks to check the speed, the signal integrity, and act accordingly. If we lose signal, then the drone is, depending on what the department policies are and what we agree on for the waivers that we get, usually is to return home, and the drone is always trying to reconnect.
All right. Thanks, Divi, for sharing those insights. There's one last question, and this is from my end. So I have saved this, for me. So again, this is something that we are asking all our partners. Could you please share some insights and your thoughts on the open DIV approach? So where basically each company contributes to a different layer of the drone autonomy stack. So in Paladine's context, you have a piece of hardware that goes onto the drone. The drone itself might or might not be manufactured by a different, manufacturer. So do you think, what are your thoughts on this approach? What are its benefits, and how can it help the industry grow? So
I think it's important to work with whatever your customer wants. I think that's what matters at the end of the day. Where that fits into our approaches, we work with we have DJI drone supports, we have Nighthawk, which is our own drone support, and we will, we have support for PX4 and other drones as well. We also partner with other companies who are very, very great at other parts in the ecosystem. For example, shout out to Skybrowse. They do 3D mapping for departments, and we know nothing about 3D mapping, but we work with them so that when departments need a 3D map created very quickly, very efficiently, and effectively, they're able to work with them. And we want to make sure that as we keep growing, have that interconnectivity, because at the end of the day, the user, especially first responders, benefit the most from having a interconnected system.
Yes. Rightly said, Divi, and that totally makes sense. And again, when you have a customer requirement, you need to cater to it and just combine all the synergies that you can and come out with a product that's innovative and at the end of the day is saving lives and helping a lot of people. So it totally makes sense. Thanks again for joining the session and sharing your insights. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank our audience. So thank you all for joining NestGen today, and hope you're having a great time as well. Do let us know how you found the session in the comments. And we also have a couple of other sessions and a few networking sessions at our booths and at our expo. So I believe, Divi, you will be at your booth, right? So the audience, if you have some requirements and you want to discuss some things with Divi in more detail, you can just go to the expo tab and connect with him at their booth. I'm sure Divi will be happy to take any questions or requirements that you might have.
Yeah, happy to answer any questions that I can. And thank you, Neil, for moderating, and thank you, NextGen, for putting this together. Excited to keep seeing the entire industry grow, and more drones for everyone.
Yes, that's true, Divi. And on that note, do you have any closing thoughts that you'd like to share with everyone?
Thank you guys for coming. I'm very, very excited to see the growth of the industry on automation, on DFR inspections all over. Please reach out to me if you have any questions. And thank you all again.
Yes, thanks Divi for taking the time. So I'm not sure if people know, but Divi is not well today, but he's taken up the time and he's really made an effort to be here. So thanks Divi. Your spirit is worth commending.
Of course, happy to be here.
All right. Thank you everyone. Thanks Divi. It was great talking to you and speak to you soon. Bye bye.